Welcome to 39B. We're going to talk about forms of linear equations. So one of the forms that we use all the time is the slope-intercept form, and it helps us identify how to draw the line when we graph it. We know that this part here is our plus b. It's this part, right? This tells us the point on the y-axis where the line intercepts, and it's a very handy and useful tool for graphing lines. It tells us the slope, so we know how to go from one point to the next point. We know how to move on our graph, and shows us where the next point's going to be. So it's a very useful form, and so it's the one we're going to use the most of. But there are other forms of linear equations, and you can take one linear equation and convert it into another form. It's still the same line. It just gives you a little bit different information in how to access that line and what you can do with it. So for instance, let's start with the general form of the line. So this, in general form, would look like 3x plus 5y minus 11 is equal to 0. That's what we call general form. And it is, I'll put that in brackets here, ax plus bx plus c is equal to 0. And it's always set equal to 0. Okay, I'm sorry, that's not an x, that is a y. That's a y. So the x and the y. And if you look at this closely, you can see where, okay, you've got a plus 11 over 5 here. You would normally add this to both sides to move it over. Then you would subtract 3x, so that's where you get your negative 3x from. And then because you have a coefficient of 5 with your y, you would divide everything by 5. So then you would end up with y is equal to negative 3/5 x plus 11 over 5, right? So you can see how the general form relates to the original form of this line. So the next form we want to talk about is the double intercept form, and that is going to be x over 11 over 3 plus y over 11 over 5 equal to 1. And that is the double intercept. And that form specifically is going to be x over a plus y over b is equal to 1. And if you look at your slope-intercept form, right, then you've got your a and your b. The a is going to be, or this is your a and this is your b, and then your c is going to be the numerator for both the a and the b whenever you have that type of a thing. And if you work it, you can come back to the general form, which then takes you to the slope-intercept form pretty easily. So if we wanted to do that, the first thing we would do is keep it, change it, flip it to normalize these fractions. So we would say x over 1 times, and we'd flip this, 3 over 11. That would be our first one. Plus, and then we would have y over 1 times, we'd flip this, 5 over 11. And that would be equal to 1, right? So this is still the same thing. But this would be 3x over 11 plus 5y over 11 is equal to 1. And to turn this into a denominator with 11, we would just multiply it and say 11 over 11 is 1. So then that allows us to get rid of the denominator. So we would have 3x plus 5y, and if we subtracted 11 from this side, or from both sides so that we could set it equal to 0, that'd be minus 11 is equal to 0, which is back to the general form, which we know how to go from general form to slope-intercept form. So sometimes you might have to pass through one form to get to the other, but that's okay. As long as you can get there, you know what steps you need to take based on how the equations work and what functions you need to apply to fractions, or what division you need to apply to, like factors, etc. So the next form I want to talk about is the point slope form. And for this equation, the point slope form is going to be y minus 1 is equal to 3 over 5 times x minus 2. This is called the point slope form. And it looks like this. Y minus y1 is equal to the slope times x minus x1. All right, so you can see the y is just a y, it's just a variable, and the x is just a variable. And you take that 1 point that you have, you need 1 point, and you need the slope. I'm sorry, this should be a -3. You take that 1 point, which is 2, 1 here. This is the point, 2, 1. And the slope, we're given the slope is 3, 5. And then you put them into that format. Okay. That's what you need in order to do this. All right, in order to do the next form, let's see, the next form is the 2-point form, and it's going to look like this. Y minus 1 is equal to -2, -1, or -2 minus 1, 7 minus 2 times x minus, I'm sorry, that should be 2, not 5, x minus 2. And that is the 2-point form. And that looks like y minus y1. So it's the same beginning as the point slope. And that is equal to y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Basically, your formula for slope. It's the same thing as this. You're just putting in your 2 points. You don't have slope figured out. So you've got to find slope by putting in your slope equation to get to here. And then that is going to be times x minus x1. So these two are very, very similar. The only difference is, instead of giving you a point and slope, they're going to give you a point and another point. And in this case, that's going to be 7 and -2. 7 and -2, that's your x2, y2. And this is your x1, y1. Right? Right. Okay, so you can see where all the parts are. So this is your y, and this is your x, your y, and your x point, and then you're figuring out the slope here. So once you do this math, you're back here to the point slope form, right? So there you go. Those are all the different forms that we have. So you want to make sure that you get these forms, these 4 new forms, in your notebook. You should know slope-intercept form by now. We've used it a jillion, gazillion times. So these 4 new forms are the ones that we really need to work on and practice and try to memorize. But write them in the back cover or someplace that's an easy reference point for you so that you have them, because we are going to do some problems converting one to the other. So let's try one. Let's do 39.6. Let me clear this. All right, 39.6. Let's see what we need to do. We need to take y is equal to -7/3 x plus 1/5, and we want to put that into general form. Now, what is general form again? That's going to be ax plus by plus c is equal to 0. That's our general form. So that's what we've got to do. So the first thing we need to do is to get some whole numbers with, because these are whole numbers, not fractions. So we need to turn these into whole numbers by finding a common denominator. So let's do that. So our common denominator is going to be 15 here. So if I multiply this by 5, I'm going to get y, actually this is going to be 15y over 15, right? Because that's just 1y. So this is going to be 5 times this. So minus 35x over 15 plus, and 3 times this is going to be 3 over 15. So now that I have the same common denominator, I can rewrite that. 15y is equal to negative 35x plus 3. And I want to set this equal to 0, so I'm going to add 35x to both sides and subtract 3. So what I end up with is 35x plus 15y minus 3 is equal to 0. And that is general form. Okay. That was 39.6. So let's look at 39.7. See what we can do with that. So 39.7 tells us that we want to use point slope form okay, and we want to find the equation of the line whose slope is negative 1/3. That's our m is equal to negative 1/3. And we have point 1, so P1 is equal to negative 2 and 5. So now let's go back and look at what point slope form is. And that's going to be y minus y1 is equal to slope times x minus x1. All right, so that was really easy to do. All we have to do is say y minus our y1 is 5, and that's equal to our slope, negative 1/3, times x, and that's minus negative 2, so it's going to be plus 2. That's our point slope form. That was not hard at all. We can do that pretty much in our sleep. Now, what we can do for that, if we want to, if we need to convert that to general form, what we can do is just solve it such like we did the other one, right? So first thing we're going to do is do our distribution. So y minus 5 is equal to negative 1x over 3 minus 2 over 3. So if I want to give these the same common denominator as I have here, then this would be 15 over 3, and this would be 3y over 3. So now I can get rid of the denominator, and I have 3y minus 15 equals negative 1x minus 2. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides. I'm going to add 1x to both sides. So my general form is going to be x plus 3y minus 13 is equal to 0. So then that would be my general form derived from my point slope form. Let's look at one more. Let's do 39.8. So we have 2x minus 3y plus 4 is equal to 0. This is general form, and we want to turn that into double intercept form. Just abbreviated there. So what is double intercept form? Let's remind ourselves what double intercept form is. That is going to be y minus y1 is equal to, now we got to find the slope. Oh, I'm sorry, that's not true. That is 2-point form. Double intercept form is x over a plus y over b is equal to 1. So what we need to do is get x and y on this side and then get our c over here and convert it to a 1. This is always equal to 1. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides, and I get 2x minus 3y is equal to negative 4. So now I'm going to divide everything by negative 4. So negative 2/4 is negative 1/2. So it's going to be negative x over 2, and negative over negative is a positive. 3y over 4 is equal to negative over negative is 1. The only thing I need to change here to put it in double intercept form is I've got to get rid of this coefficient with the y. So what I have to do is divide both the numerator and the denominator by 3. So when I do that, x over 2 stays the same, plus 3y divided by 3 is equal to y. So that's going to be y on the top. And then 4 divided by 3 is equal to 4 divided by 3. So then that becomes a fraction on the bottom. 4 over 3 is equal to 1. And that is my double intercept form. That is what I would have right there. Alrighty, so you can see it's not super difficult to go from one to the other. I mean, we literally had 3 steps here. In this form, the values of the x and the y-intercept can be determined by inspection. We see that if we let x equal 0 and y equal 4 over 3, and then if we let y equal 0, then x will equal negative 2. So we can find all of the various points by subbing in as we needed to. All right, so I'm going to try that for you just to give you a little, in order to find the y, we're going to let the x equal 0. So that would be 0 plus y over 4 over 3 is equal to 1, so it'd be 0 here. So then this would go away. So when I multiply both sides by 4 over 3, right, then that, because that's my numerator, then I would end up with y is equal to 4 over 3, because 1 times 4 over 3 is 4 over 3. Same thing for the x. If I let y equal 0, then x over 2 would be, because this is a negative x, we don't like negative x, so we're going to multiply this by negative 1. So this becomes a positive x, this becomes a negative 2. And that's going to be plus 0 over 4 over 3. And we know anything divided by 0 divided by anything is 0, so that goes away. That's equal to 1. So when I multiply by negative 2, x is going to be equal to negative 2. So that's how we would find our points there. All right. So then it would look like negative 2 and 4 over 3 would be our coordinates. So the constant under x is the x-intercept, which we call A, and the constant under y is the y-intercept, which we call B. All right. That's all I have for lesson 39. If you have any questions, let me know. I will see you in lesson 40.